Hi, I'm Paul from pdhsports.com, the leading online racket specialist, and I'm joined today by Johnny Duffield, who's a key account manager for Dunlop. Hi Johnny.
All right. Thanks for having
me. So Johnny's here. I've brought Johnny in today to discuss Dunlop. So Dunlop's one of our sort of key brands and a very popular squash brand that we're selling. And obviously Johnny has working for Dunlop, I thought it'd be interesting to get some insight into the ranges and your thoughts on the Dunlop brand as a whole and where it fits in. So first of all, should we talk about some of the players that that Dunlop are sponsoring? So obviously you've got Ali Farag.
Yeah,
the main one.
He is. Yeah, Ali's been with us now for a number of years. Yeah, it was great. We signed him when he was at sort of his Harvard University, and he's come on to be, real potential. Back when I think he was about 70 in the world, but he's gone on to be, the phenomenal powerhouse in squash, world number one, which is brilliant. And luckily we were joined by his wife Noor El Tayeb. That happened in 2017. So yes, she's come on. She uses the Revelation 125 racket. And then to be fair, we've got Diego Elias, who is currently ranked, I think, around 6 in the world. Another real hot sort of potential, one of the youngest guys in the top 10 in the world. And we've still got sort of association with Greg Gaultier, still playing, still plans to get back into squash, still thinks he can challenge.
So just interestingly, because I mean, one thing we are going to discuss is about the sort of the shapes and stuff. I mean, Dunlop traditionally, certainly from when I was growing up and stuff, was all about more the classic head shape, control. Yet obviously your number one player is on a teardrop shape, the Revelation Hyperfiber XT Revelation Pro. How does that fit in with what in terms of the brand?
Well, I think it's a modern. I play a very mediocre standard of squash myself, but I know from being involved in squash that the game has changed. It's just been a sort of a general sort of change really over the past decade, I would say. The game's got a lot faster. You see that with the way that the guys play on tour. It's all about speed, racket head speed, and certainly really quick reflexes. It's just played at a different tempo to perhaps how it was played sort of 20 years plus ago.
So I think he had quite a big insight into.
Absolutely, yeah. So he, I think, Ali used to use Prince range of rackets. That's what he was brought up on. And when the opportunity came to sign for Dunlop, initially he was, he tested one or two of the rackets and they just weren't quite right for him. So he tested the control-based frame of racket. I think he said he quite liked the Ultimate. That was the one that was sort of closest if he was going to use that style of racket. But we really wanted to make Ali feel special and get that racket that was 100% right for him. So the Revelation racket, as you see today, this one was actually a mould that has existed within Dunlop for a number of years. It was a racket that we hadn't really promoted, or we thought was going to be one of the sort of the premium frames, and it was a little bit of a last resort for Ali, but he tried it and absolutely loved it. So we went away with our R&D department, put technology, some sort of really nice technology in there. And it is what it is today.
So what's new this year? Because obviously they've just updated the racket for 2019.
Yeah. So I'll just comparing it, if I can, to the previous range. So you have the Evolution as an example. This racket features what we call Hyperfiber Plus, which is a ballistic fibre, which was originally put in the racket at the 3 and 9 o'clock positions. And that was just really to work on what we call torsional stability. So every time you hit a squash racket or any racket or golf club, anything like that, there's always that torque that can generally mean your shots don't go quite where you intend them to go. So by adding that in fibres, it just stiffens the racket head that little bit more, provides that torsional stability, stops it from twisting, and in essence it provides you with a lot more control. So what we've done is Hyperfiber XT is a second generation now of Hyperfiber, so we've been working with the material for a little bit longer. And what they decided to do with the testing was actually looking at the way the racket was performing this particular sort of frame shape in particular. They've moved the Hyperfiber from the 3 and the 9 o'clock position to the 10 and the 2 o'clock position, so a real functioning part, and they've also added it now in the 6 o'clock position, so you've almost got a triangle of the Hyperfiber. and that's primarily based around a power concept. So what we're looking to do is deliver the maximum amount of power to the racket. So I think that's noticeable when you hit the difference between the two rackets. You can feel it's to do with the swing weight in the head. It just adds a little bit more swing weight, which
does a slight cosmetic update as well. Black strings.
Yeah, absolutely. This follows a design concept. So the brand was actually bought by a Japanese rubber company called the Sumitomo Rubber Industry, SRI, about 2.5 years ago now. And what we really wanted to do was to deliver a new identity for the brand. So what we've come up with is a Flying D concept. So the Flying D is our company logo. This Flying D on the side of the racket now, real strong cosmetic. So when you see the tour players out there, it's really visible that it's a Dunlop racket in the hand, which I think the early stages of the season has delivered the impact we desired, really.
So Sports Direct, for people that don't know, no longer own Dunlop.
They don't. No. So we it was a complete changeover now 2.5 years ago. So we were owned by Sports Direct. We are no longer. And
so that one features quite Ali likes quite a head heavy. I mean, it's still a light frame at 128 grams frame weight, but he wanted a bit more weight in the head. So I guess some club players that want, like, you've got the light version.
Absolutely.
A bit more headlight.
Yeah, I think weight is a very subjective comment. I think people see the weights of what the rackets that Ali or Nick Matthew or perhaps using other brands, Mabed El Shabaghi, these other players that they use, and automatically they think that lighter is better. Without, again, not only the frame shape has changed, but also the weights. I remember years ago working in the industry, and David Palmer, as a classic example, used to use a racket that was 160 grams, and he's one of the greatest players of all time. So it just shows that weight is don't be put off by trying rackets that are of a different balance. Ali loves this racket, he told us, because he likes those shots at the front of the court, touch shots, where he just feels like a little bit more weight behind the ball makes a big difference.
Yeah. I personally have found when I've used those two rackets, like my go-to racket is much more head light, but when I've used those two rackets, I much preferred the Pro to that one. I felt like it worked better as a
number of our ambassadors that we've got, coaches, things like that, working for the brand are exactly the same. That is a racket that if you've not used it before, I just it's not. Strongly recommend you go out there and try it, because it is a little bit different to everything else that people offer.
And that is exact spec.
Sometimes
so there's some differences, but that's supposed to be the exact spec of what Ali
100%.
uses.
Yeah, no. So tennis players, I know from working in the industry, that they are a little bit more sort of fussy, should we say, about very rare do they use a racket that is off the shelf racket, but we've got the luxury of other than the grip, he uses a slightly different grip, Dunlop grip, but it's a slightly different one. Other than that, that string is called Silk, which is a multi-filament string, which is something Ali and a number of other pro players are using now, but exactly off the shelf, that's Ali's racket. But we brought in the lighter version just to accommodate those perhaps younger kids who are looking for something that just does feel a little bit more head heavy. So 125 grams, but balanced, a bit more head light.
Yeah. So so his wife is using the Revelation. So how do these differ to the one that Ali's using?
Just two things really. The biggest difference is the head shape is noticeably different. It's this is a 500 centimetre squared head, whereas the Fleece is 490, so it's just that little bit bigger. The main reason there is you just get a slightly bigger sweet spot. Again, the racket generates slightly more power. Slightly different stringing pattern on this racket as well. Again, designed to deliver a bit more power. And the beam of the racket as well, you can see on that one there, it's noticeably thinner. This one here features a slightly thicker beam, which again is to provide more stiffness in the racket, which will give it a little bit more power. So,
and then sort of similar to the Revelation ones, you've got two models.
Yeah,
two different weights.
The key difference between these two, again, 125 grams, 135 grams to 10 grams. Again, 135 is not a heavy racket. It's a racket I would strongly encourage people to use. Super head light or extra head light, so it's a really nicely balanced racket. But the biggest difference is the stringing pattern. This features what we call Power Max, which is a fan stringing pattern to deliver our most powerful racket. That's the most powerful stringing pattern that we've tested. versus the just the standard stringing pattern in that one.
And they're the only ones that are so these are new for this season with the sort of Hyperfiber XT, aren't they? So the other range, the other ones have stayed the same from previous.
Yeah, I mean we've got other rackets. I mean our most popular racket really in the UK is the Nick Matthew Evolution 120. That's a mould. We regard this as what we call a hybrid mould. So you get that exactly the same head shape actually as the Ali Farag one, 490 centimetre squared head, but you've got that ever so slight throat in the bottom of the racket, which does just provide a little bit more control. Right. But again, very popular racket.
And again, 2 weights.
Absolutely, you've got 120, which is the Nick Matthew signature racket, which is a very, very popular racket for us. Just really, really nice balance, really easy to feel. It's a real go-to racket if people new to Dunlop want to try something. That's always one we put in their hands. And then again, you've got the 130, not heavy, 130 grams is a really, really nice weight. And again, that little bit more weight will just give you a little bit more power.
And so you've got Declan James on that one?
Absolutely. So Declan's has been with us for a number of years. The Dark Knight is his nickname, and certainly the feel of the racket is to go with that black and white sort of concept. Yeah. Sort of follows in with that.
So there's quite a big investment, like in terms of your players, isn't there? Do you find that certain players sell rackets better than others, or is it just a case of trying to get a nice sort of spread across your?
It's always I think it's difficult. In certain countries, depending on where that player comes from, there will obviously be more of a steer towards a following for that racket. I mean, we've been so lucky with Nick Matthew being a very local player to you here, and just not too far down the road. But he's been a huge ambassador for the English game of squash. Been 3-time world champion and world number 1. So because of that, I guess sales of his racket have been very strong. We'll see.
So he's still an ambassador, even though now he's officially retired, isn't he? So he's still at Dunlop.
Absolutely, with players like Nick and Greg Gaultier in particular have been Dunlop players throughout their whole career. So it seems fitting that we can continue to work with them. I mean, another one, Lee Beachill, who was a former world number 1. It was somebody we go to for a lot of testing of the rackets. So we do like to involve the players in when we're testing new technologies to make sure that we are providing rackets that these players do like. It's not. We don't have the mediocre players like me testing them and giving feedback. So
back in the day when I was playing professionally, then these were the rackets that really, like when we think of Dunlop, everyone was using. So I think at one point I was using the Pro. And quite interestingly, so I've just come back from a trip to Spain where we did film quite a lot of footage, which will be coming out shortly, where we kind of got some feedback and spoke to other club players. And one thing I've come back with for us, there is still, even though it's often all about the teardrop, there was quite a few people still using the Classic. And when I spoke to them, what they said to me was, you can't beat the feel of that racket, so I'm going to stick with it. So do you want to tell us a little bit about these ones?
So these are called our Precision range. So they feature the same Hyperfiber technology, but you've got your Precision Ultimate, which is our sort of signature racket. Ultimate and Elite have been around for a long time, but like you say, the Pro was the original, if you like, back in the day. The Ultimate is currently endorsed by Diego, who's doing fantastically well. But the main thing for these is they are control-based rackets. This weighs 132 grams. It's a really nice racket to use, very easy to use. Features the same size head, 500 centimetres squared, as the Revelation racket. So, for example, that one, which gives it a large sweet spot. It's very nice to use. And that's really the key difference, is the precision. When you look at that now, and you look at it on people playing with it on court, it does look small head. I mean, it doesn't. Again, we're not talking huge differences at all, really. I mean, that is still such a very popular racket. I mean, in various guises that you can buy it in. The Precision range, featuring the latest technology, is a really nice racket to buy. But yeah, it's quite funny because people who've used this frame shape traditionally, they do struggle to move over towards the more power-based rackets. Right. So yeah, but it's. And
do you still see a future for Dunlop in that racket? Will there be another range out next year.
Absolutely, 100%.
So you're not going to move away.
Well, I think we'd like to think that we're a brand that you know is synonymous with this frame shape, the pro racket, as you quite rightly say, this style of racket. So going in, looking ahead, we will definitely be developing these, and they will not be going out of the range. 100%. There's such a loyal following for people that like these rackets, and yeah, the idea for us as a brand is to make sure that there's the right racket for the right player. So we'd strongly recommend that you find somewhere where you can test the rackets and hopefully find the most suitable racket for you.
Yeah, because I mean, so I know for us, we've got some of the older Ultimates and Elites. These are still like some of our best-selling rackets. That, you know, I mean, some of it the price, but you know, they're still classic frames that are sought after, aren't they? So I mean, we do big numbers with those.
It's just squash. I mean, I think it's, you know, it is, like you say, like most industries these days, price driven. These are fantastic frames. It's always worth comparing them against new technologies just to see if the technology is improving. We like to think that it is, but I guess we'll let the consumers, you know, judge for themselves, really.
Okay. So I'd just like to talk about the balls.
Yep.
So obviously, you know, Dunlop dominates the market, you know, like no other. It's very, you know, like, I mean, with tennis we sell like many different balls, and people seem happy to turn up to a tennis match and the ball react differently. But for years and years and years, Dunlop seemed to. Why is it you think that Dunlop has been the only one that has been able to sort of create a ball that everyone's happy with?
It's a very good question. I think when people think of squash, like you said there, they think of Dunlop for that very reason. It is very unusual that one brand dominates a particular element of a sport. But I think it primarily comes down to the, you know, I guess the consistency. The players very much like the balls. I think for us, it's just providing a ball that is consistent to the players. I think we get very little feedback in terms of, you know, the issues that we have with the ball. And I guess it's just people just have an association with, you know.
So can I ask, has anything changed on these balls in the, you know, so when I was playing 20 years ago?
Yeah.
What has there been? Is there much change? Is there any plans to change anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're keen to make sure we are constantly developing, and that goes on all the time behind the scenes, constantly looking at ways we can improve the ball. We are aware of the brands are trying to, you know, look at that market share that we have, and naturally are thinking that they can, you know, that they can get in on that business. So for us as a brand, we're progressively trying to develop and improve the squash ball as much as possible. But the mould, to answer your question, there was a mould change, so the actual sort of housing of the ball, how it's made, was changed I think around 4 years ago.
Right.
And that was really just to make sure we were keeping on top of the consistency. Some of the moulds over years do sort of wear out and they don't become perfect, so there was a mould change, but other than that, I think the production of the ball, as far as I'm aware, is not changed in a number of years. So yeah.
And then, so we've got the grips out here. So again, sort of following on my trip to Spain last weekend. Obviously, Caracal, similar with Dunlop for the balls, is you know, one of the most popular grips. And you know, how do you feel these compare? So this is similar to the PU Super Grip.
Absolutely. So yes, I mean, PU grip is it's just PU is the material it's made out of. So yeah, I mean, it's like with the Dunlop squash balls for us. I mean, I guess Caracal have had a very strong name in developing their grips over a number of years. A lot of brands clearly have gone back to the factories and you know, have managed to look at alternatives, but I think it's, you know, it offers real value for the.
So you'll be coming after Caracal for some of that.
Well, I think all I will say is that our pro players, you know, yes, we would always like them to use everything Dunlop as much as possible, but clearly if you know, if it makes that bit of difference really in terms of, you know, these are guys that we want to go on court and feel completely comfortable with all of their equipment. They wouldn't use anything that they weren't happy with, and a lot of the toe guys out there, they do use the Dunlop grip, which suggests it's good. I use them. I think they're you know, there's very little difference in that in the Caracal.
We took some on the trip and gave them out to try and get some feedback, and I think the general feedback that we got was they may be slightly thinner than the Caracal ones, but they seem to be more tacky. So everyone that tried them was really quite interested in I think it's the way they perform.
There's choice. I mean, it's just the key thing really is to test. Just try them. Don't listen to what people say. If you're looking for an alternative grip, I'm sure there are plenty of grips available, but don't disregard the Dunlop grip. I think it's pretty good.
So then, obviously Dunlop do a very successful range of bags, which we haven't actually brought here, but like this year they brought out. So we've got the Strixon.
Yeah.
Can you just tell me a little bit about the link, so people might not know who Strixon is? Why are the bags now?
Yeah, so when we were bought by the Sumitomo rubber industry, Strixon is a golf brand that they own, along with XXEO, which is another sort of very nice golf company. Renowned probably more commonly within the golf clubs up and down the land as a very good ball manufacturer, but they make very good irons, very good woods and drivers as well. So Strixon as a company pride themselves on superior quality. Everything they make is of really, really good quality. So the bags, as an example of that, the new bags in our tennis collection, which you can see here. It's a brand new range. They're very, very good quality. The bags, the feedback we get on the bags is that they're extremely well made, very practical. So give them a try.
Yeah. Finally, so Dunlop, not renowned for its shoes, but you do you do a range of shoes. Can you tell us anything about your shoes, and are there any plans for the future?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so we have two shoes. That one there is the Evolution Pro, which I think is an incredible value shoe. It has a retail price point of around £100, but I think they are sold a little bit less than that. But it's it's Nick Matthew, who is former 3-time world champion, former world #1, incredible squash player.
Now wearing that.
Which now wearing that, absolutely. He has been with High Tech for a number of years. So the people.
The guy that beat me actually at the weekend, he was wearing this shoe.
Yeah. So they're good. They're lightweight. They're they've got good stability, good cushioning. And I think if you're looking to try an alternative squash shoe, then I wouldn't look too much further. Really, can't go wrong.
Excellent. So just finally then, to wrap this up. I know you maybe don't want to give away too many secrets, but what are the plans for Dunlop going into 2020, and where do you want to sort of see the brand?
Well, we need to continue to work with our ambassadors. Really, really for now it's been a transitional period. I've said so. We had Nick Matthew and Greg Gaultier as two huge sort of just huge powerhouses of the sport. For a good sort of 10 to 15 years really. So the transition now has been happening, moving more towards the frame shape has been moving more to the power side. So continue to work with the players, with the Strixon range. Don't be surprised to see a little bit of that moving into the range from next year. So exciting times ahead. And we're at the moment, we have got links with the PSA World Tour. We're very proud. Going back to the balls, actually, with the balls, it's our link really with the PSA and the local official squash provider to England squash, to Welsh squash, to Scottish squash. So we do work very closely with all the governing bodies. So that's really what we're looking to do is really work at grassroots level, make sure everybody's aware of who Dunlop are, and certainly for the future, watch this space.
Excellent. Well, so there you go. So, first of all, thank you, Johnny, for your time today. And hopefully, the viewers got a little bit of insight into Dunlop as the brand and where we stand. I personally would like to say thank you to Dunlop. Dunlop plays a big part in our business at pdhsports. We had that trip to Chicago last year where we were able to deliver some great content and insight into the players. And I certainly appreciate the fact that Dunlop supports squash as a whole. So yeah, okay. So. There you go, there's another vlog from PDH Sports featuring Dunlop. Hope you enjoyed this content. Feel free to, if there's any questions, comment down below. But thanks a lot for your time, and
thank you for having me.
We'll be posting some more stuff shortly.